Welcome back to the Siris King show. Hope everybody's well. In this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit. It's a political observation I noticed or I've made, right? And I kind of said this before in my last political video. I feel that as Americans, we definitely need to travel more in that sense. And the reason why I say that is because, especially, I mean, we can say it for political takes, right? So I can say politically, especially. But even if we don't go politically and we just go in general, like in terms of, you know, like understanding the country culturally and understanding the different lifestyles that make up this country, a lot of times what happens is people stay in their isolated cultural bubbles, right? And when they stay in those cultural bubbles, it actually shapes their politics in a sense, right? So like, if we come in and I'll be like, as a libertarian, right? But I'm a different type of libertarian, kind of mix Marxist philosophy with that. If somebody says, oh, what's the top libertarian states, right? I'll probably say off the top of my head, the Dakotas, North and South, especially South, probably New Hampshire, and I'm going to say Arizona and Nevada. I mean, that's a stretch. But I'm going to say Arizona, Nevada. And out of Arizona, excuse my dog in the background, is fucking around. Right? And out of Arizona, Nevada, New Hampshire, I don't know how much times they vote red or blue, but I'm sure they vote blue most of the time. And then the rest, Nevada usually votes blue. You know, usually a little close, usually votes blue. And then North and South Dakota and Arizona, North and South Dakota tend to vote red. Arizona is a swing state. So when you look at that, it's a mixture of blue and red, right? And if you took the red states from that, the Dakotas, right, you would then say, well, it's red states. So it's the same thing as like Alabama, Mississippi, and it's not in that sense. And a lot of times America is made up of different lifestyles. It's a very vast country. You know, we forget. It's a country made up of like Alaska's America, Hawaii's America. They're totally different lifestyles. Let's not even talk about the territories like Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Guam. It's vast. And all those things make up America. And yet, when people say they love this country, when people are opinionated on many topics, they tend to only know their region. And the reason why that's important is because I actually had a theory, and that's partly why I noticed, considering that Democrats, I say this as a libertarian, and I say this as a person who probably would vote more Republican if the Libertarian Party wasn't there, right? Even though shit, at this point, I'll vote for the Green Party over the Democrats, to be honest with you. But, you know, as somebody who, I look at it and I say, the thing that's like the Democrats traditionally, I mean, some of the stuff is a little bit out of control. I do think some of the transgender stuff, they should really look at that. I'm not anti anybody, but a lot of energy has been put on 1% of the population. I think they should look at that up, you know, reevaluate that. And I do think also the economic policies, if you want to be socialism, I mean, they don't. Obviously, the Democratic Party is corporate, but if you want to, whatever you want to do, you should at least be able to pretend to help the middle class and the working class. They lost that shit long time ago, right? So, but I say that all to say, I think when it comes to the majority of the issues, the Democratic Party is actually on the right side of history. And if you actually were to poll people, they probably, if you know how to poll them, would probably side with the Democrats 55 to 60% of the times. The Democratic problem is they are a big tent party, and they're into coalitions, and they're pretty much into, you know, they're corporatists, so they're into transnational power. So when you're into transnational power, you tend to be very focused on the coastal areas, and you tend to, what you call it? You tend to kind of ignore vast parts of the country. Remember, the middle part of the country, they used to say was the Midwest. They used to call the Midwest flyover country, right? So I think if they were able to treat the states individually and look at the states as individual entities, they would do better. But because they look at the states, they're looking ahead of the states, and they have gaps, and they say, oh, this state we don't care about, this state we don't care about. Though you might be right on more issues than you're wrong, you're going to lose the long game to the Republicans in that sense. And that's politically. I think for the regular people who are so opinionated, like, I can sometimes tell where you're from, and at least if you're from the blue side or red side, even regionally, based on your takes. Based on your takes. Right? Nobody can come here right now and tell me when they hear this, they know where I lean. Right? I literally said the Democrats are more the right side of history more than the Republicans. Right? And yet, when I go on social media, on Twitter, I have way more fights with Democrats. Right? I don't have fights with Republicans. Not really. So that just tells you that for me, even though you couldn't tell where I'm from, and that's kind of molded my political mind in that sense. And I feel that no matter where you stand politically, it's kind of important to be able to have discussions and to kind of be able to see the other side and be able to see multiple sides, right? Utah's Mormons, right? What's up with them? It's important to see that, right? Because when you don't see that, you could say you're fighting for your country. You could say you are voting for the best interests of your family, yourself, and your country. But if you don't know your country, really, how could you be voting for the best interests of your country's future? That's food for thought. And that saves a lot of arguments, right? Or if you have arguments, it shapes it where you can understand the other side. I love arguing politics because most of the time, I don't lose debates. You know what happens politically? I either win or it's even for that day, for that moment, for that year. Long term, I usually always win because I have different things. How should I say this? I have the bigger picture in mind. If I'm arguing about somebody who says they don't give a fuck about foreign policy, they can say that. Right? They can say that. Foreign policy probably runs your nation. Without question. The military, industrial, what do you think the military is? They're not fighting us, right? They're fighting wars abroad. Even hedge funds and banks, and what do corporations want to do? Spread transnationally. So what they do internationally is actually more important. Like, your head could be in the sand and not know that. You're not going to win that fight long term. You see? So if you want to come to me and say, oh, I'm not hard enough on Donald Trump, you don't pay attention to politics. So it's easy for you to say that. And so I think it's important because politics is a thing, even if you don't vote, even if you're busy with other things in your life, it's a science. And on the deeper level, studying politics helps you understand people. Like, I could look at a guy like Joe Rogan, and I can tell why Joe Rogan is successful with his podcast. He knows people. And he kind of knows where to lean. Joe pretends to have views, but he kind of knows where to lean, right? And if you're a person into majorityism politics, I know it's probably not a word. I forgot what it's called, where the majority of the people feel a certain way. That's kind of how Rogan is in that sense. Like I told you in my last video, a lot of people just stay in their bubbles, their blue and red bubbles, and they really swear that they know what's going on, and they really swear that they can't see past their bubble. And that's very dangerous to be in politics, especially now when we have more information and things are going so fast. Got to be able to see alternative views. So if I was some of you guys that can travel, try to start to, look, I've done my traveling internationally, so I can't talk. But I do think traveling domestically and mingling with people could definitely help your perception, definitely view how you see the world. Siris King. Until next time, peace.